Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And today I am very excited about my conversation with part of the leadership team at ProGuard Security Services. Welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
So happy to have you here on this beautiful, hot and sunny day. We have JJ and Nils who are representing ProGuard today, and welcome to the Arizona market. I know that's a fairly new decision for you.
It's fairly new, and thank you for having us on this show, and thank you for all the listeners that you have to tune into your broadcast. We are fairly new to the Phoenix area. We've been operating here almost a year now, give or take, and we're making some good inroads, and we're here to help Phoenix and the greater Phoenix area really have options when it comes down picking a great security company. That's what we do. Protecting
us and the things that matter, right?
Right.
Yeah. So why Arizona? Why did you think it was time to come here and be part of our community?
Yeah, we obviously, my role as the chief revenue officer is to, be responsible for top line growth of our company. And that entails expansion into other markets, diversifying our service deliverables so that we can have different streams of revenue. So Arizona was an original or a natural expansion for us because I'm a resident of Arizona. Yeah. So when I moved out here several years ago, it was kind of two-pronged. It was one that I was moving out here, but also to set up shop out here as well and continue to grow our brand out here. And just to comment off of Niels's comment, we are also down in Tucson as well, operating down there as well. So we're trying to cover the entire state of Arizona at this point.
All right. Yeah. So what the company does, what we're really looking into growing when we're looking at new markets, the company had grown out of San Francisco, the Bay Area, and we moved into different local markets, I should call them, San Jose, East Bay, Oakland, that area, and that kind of grow out of San Francisco. When we're looking to enter into a new market, we're really looking to to establish ourselves into tier one markets. Phoenix is definitely one tier one market. There is a lot of activity going on in Phoenix. A lot of companies are established themselves here. The market is growing. There's just a lot of opportunities here. So we want to be part of that. We want to be part of the community, building a solid foundation, providing a really good quality security service for our clients, and protecting and working with their assets.
So let's talk about that. For our listeners and viewers who may not be familiar with who you are, what services do you offer? Tell us a little bit about the industry and your role in it.
Sure. Starting with the basics, I guess, security industry. I get the question a lot of times, what type of security? I mean, it's not obvious. Is it internet? Is it online? Is it offline? We provide a physical security service, meaning that we provide trained staffing, trained security officers that will provide a tailored security solution for our customers' needs. So it's not high tech. We do deploy technology into the way that we operate. We do deploy technology to help us achieve our goals of 100% accuracy in the service delivery. But it's really, that is the industry that we are playing in.
What would you add to that?
Yes. Yeah, so, in addition to that, we do provide other types of security solutions as well. We do, security patrols, having our field supervisors, patrol drivers going to accounts and just checking on the accounts, making sure that the building's secure and safe and reporting on that and leaving and going somewhere else. That is one of our service deliveries as well. And then kind of you talked about the industry and where it's going. The commercial real estate industry has been, has taken a hit ever since COVID. And we're finding a lot of clients are still not having the tendency that they want to have, that they would like to have in terms of supporting their buildings, supporting the owners of those buildings and having revenue. So we think it's responsible and, should be part of our existence to identify that with our clients and provide other security solutions for them that may come at a cost savings for them. So one of those things is remote monitoring. So we are kind of getting into the technological side of it. We have a security operations center that can look at cameras, can take in feeds. And, we have AI analytics layered on top of that. So it makes it much easier for our security operations center monitors to, weed out the false alarms and things like that.
Right.
So, and that comes at a cost savings. It's like almost like maybe a fifth of the price of having an actual person on site, for an entire shift for 7 days a week.
So we're fully aware of the different artificial intelligence tools and the trends in the market. We are positioning ourselves to really take full advantage of any kind of AI technology that can help us either enhance our services or even cut costs in terms of the service delivery. And as JJ mentioned, we recently built out, well, not recently, but we built out a very sophisticated, very advanced SOC, a security control center where we monitor remotely our clients' assets and where we can really respond rapidly with security services to those locations if there would be something coming up that is of an intrusion or some kind of alarm being set off. So the market is going toward more automation and more of AI technology being implemented, and this is our focus and our effort to really help our clients to, as JJ said, bringing down the cost and giving a really good security solution. But yeah, as a base service, it's still security officers providing a service at the different locations that we service. And from an industry standpoint, the commercial, I just read an article the other day. It stated that they will take 20 years for San Francisco to rebound in the commercial market.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's a pretty dire prediction. And we will see. I mean, the jury's still out. That was one article. But we, as JJ said, we really want to work with our clients to make sure that they get a really good service at a cost that they can afford with in a lot of cases, much smaller footprint in terms of their leased space. There's a lot of vacancy that really needs to be filled up again before they are really operating at full capacity.
Mm-hmm. Why is this?
Can I just add to that real quick? So,
absolutely.
and the one thing that we can provide as well is a response mechanism. Law enforcement continues to get more and more busy, and they're trying to do more with less. And, if you have a client who we're monitoring, their cameras, their access control system, and we have a glass break or we have some sort of a vandalism happening, that may not solicit a law enforcement response. They may say no. So we're able to actually send, a patrol officer, security patrol officer to the site to assess what's going on, contact a client, and kind of work on a solution when maybe law enforcement can't do that.
And more that's happening where those resources are less and less in communities, which is why we rely on companies like yours.
Right.
Thank you for adding that. Nils, how did you get involved in this industry? I know, JJ, when we've talked, you've mentioned that you've kind of been swimming in this pond for a while, which is why Nils has brought you on board. How about you? How did you get started in security?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a longer story, actually, but I'll try to keep it fairly short. Before I got into the security field, I've been working with several different high-tech companies. I was a consultant. I worked with a venture capital firm. So I had a lot of the finance background, I guess, and then I had some operational experience that I brought to the table. And we're talking back 2000, right after 9/11, actually, is when I got into the industry. And my other company I was working at the time actually went under, as other companies did around that time. So it's a little bit of a challenging market, so to speak, especially in the field that I had been operating within. And I did come across this company that wasn't doing very well, and I was talking to the principal of that company, and one thing led to another, and I kind of offered him to, I guess I offered him to do a turnaround on that company at a kind of a no cost for him and some equity for me, and I did. So that company had at the time they had about 10 employees, And when I left that company, they had about 1,000 employees.
Mm.
So under my leadership, we were also San Francisco based, but we had offices from Seattle down to San Diego actually at the time when I left. So they have, at the time they had a little bit bigger footprint than we have currently, but we're catching up and we're getting there as well. So, but yeah, that's how I got into it. And 23 years later, I guess I'm still at it. So,
Yeah.
but it was fun. I mean, the first go around, I learned a lot, and I took a lot of I took the positive things from that company and turned it into ProGuard, and then try to stay away from the things that didn't work so well from the other company, because there's always things that work well and things that work less well when you're building a company. And so I took that experience, and I think that we hit the mark with ProGuard several times, and we continue doing that. So good experience that I brought into the field. And then obviously I've been able to capture and recruit people like JJ and to help me build that, build the vision that I had from the beginning.
That's right where I was going to go next. Tell me how the two of you got connected, and JJ, what made you want to become part of ProGuard Security?
So I have a varied background as well in just public safety in general for about 30 years. I was in the United States Marine Corps for a while while I was attending college. I had a brief, about a decade-long career in law enforcement. So when I came into security in 2012, it was a natural kind of a shift for me. Scheduling portion, it's very similar to law enforcement, but security driven. So I started off at a very large company and learned a lot of things there, and kind of moved up the chain there, and went to another company, to a large regional company in the Bay Area, to oversee a couple of branches. Again, kind of honed in on my skill set, learned more, and was approached by Niels on LinkedIn. Just this random private message from Mr. Niels Whelan, and I'm like, who is this guy? And so I we started a dialogue, and we ultimately met up, and we started to talk about security, ProGuard's trajectory, and how I could be of benefit to him. And that's kind of where the
rest
relationship
is history, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't actually go that far. Rest is history. Well, I guess it's a good saying, but I do have to. So we're definitely a different company size-wise today than when JJ joined. So this was actually like back in 18.
Mm-hmm.
So he did take a fairly significant risk in a way, joining a smaller company at that time. But kudos to JJ and actually being able to recognize what I was just pretty much laying out on paper, and taking it for my word that this was going to happen. I mean, that's kind of one of the tougher things that you do. You make these, in your career, you come up on these different segments where you have a decision to make. And a lot of times you can look at the rearview mirror and go, maybe I didn't do the right decision here. And that's really, really tough. It's a tough point where you get to that as a person. How do you decide which one is the best decision for you and your family when you make that? And I think that if I give myself a little bit of kudos here, I think that I was convincing enough, and I could paint a picture well enough to what my vision was with the company, and I was trustworthy. I shouldn't say enough there, but I was trustworthy so that he actually believed what I was saying. So I think that is really what got us to where we are today.
That's a great point. It's something that I don't really often think about, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it was a concern of mine. I was married, I had children, and but I think ultimately my reason for switching over is a testament to Niels and kind of his vision for the company and where he saw us going, trajectory wise in the future. And I felt safe enough that we were going to accomplish things that we set out to do, and we have. So we are a success story, but we are just continuing to get better and better, and protect people and places. For our clients.
So ProGuard has been around for 20 years. Yeah. And so you've been at this for a while. From your extensive experience, both of you, what are the biggest challenges that you see currently happening in the security industry? And I think you spoke a little bit about some of these vacancies and things. Are there more concerns?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are. You got to look at. I mean, the industry as a whole. You look at it, but then you also you got to carve out how different things kind of fit in with each other. Okay, so we have labor market, and that's one thing. How do you attract and how do you connect and how do you keep good employees? That's one aspect, and that's been challenging in some markets, and it's been less challenging in other markets. It's just, I mean, labor market is not necessarily a to some extent it's similar nationwide, but then there are pockets that are more have more unemployment than others. So you have maybe more of a challenge in the Bay Area hiring than you have in Phoenix or versus LA. So, but those are things that we monitor on a regular basis, and we just as a group come together and decide how we're going to continue attracting good people. And so that's one aspect of challenges that we have. And then there's legislative challenges that we're up against sometimes. California, some people might have heard rumors about, they do change their climate for businesses here and there, and sometimes it's not always to the better for us. It can be challenging to operate in California. There's no doubt about that. I have been doing that for 20 plus years, but yeah, they can be challenging. So you have to adapt to those things as well, and address those as they come up, and make sure that you protect the company for different liabilities that might be hidden in a way. And then obviously we look at clients and the challenges they have. Where is our markets going? We touched upon it before. The commercial space has been challenged in the Class A buildings. We know that you can just open any newspaper and read about transaction that's selling at lower cost than they bought them for before COVID. So those are challenges that doesn't necessarily prevent us from providing services, but it's things that we need to be aware of on a regular basis and adapt to. And but it's part of kind of building a business. You just have to be in tune with it. So I'll let JJ add a little bit to it there before.
Yeah, I'd love to piggyback off of that. In terms of keeping up with the market, there's laws passed, such as in California. There was a law passed in April that states any large fast food chain establishment has to pay their employees at least $20 an hour. So that's significant for us, right? Being in the security market. So the good thing about our company is that we vet our clients as much as they vet us. And so when the time comes, we can go to them and have an honest conversation with them and go, listen, this new law passed. It's going to make recruiting a little bit more difficult. We need to keep that delta between what security officers are being paid and what fast food workers are being paid. So we're going to, let's discuss, maybe getting a rate increase and giving the officers a wage increase and things like that. And most of the time our clients are appreciative of the fact that we're able to have these very transparent conversations with them. And it, kind of goes back to why we selected to work with them in the first place. Another aspect I think that's challenging as well is the security industry itself. You have, 4 or 5 major players that are multi-billion-dollar companies, and a lot of those companies have an acquisition type of a model where they go and instead of growing organically, they acquire smaller companies and add headcount to their line staff. And so if you're a client, you basically can pick out of 3, right? You can pick one of the huge companies that's very, there's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of red tape, if you will, and they have a kind of a security in a box kind of formula for you, where they'll just give you, officers, regardless of whether they're a fit for your site or not. Or you can pick from a very small company that's probably been small for the last 20 years and they never grew because they were just kind of comfortable where they're at. The challenge with those companies is that they don't have the technology, and the innovation spirit to really grow. So they're stagnant. They kind of stay where they're at. And those companies have a very difficult time attracting and, keeping client, officers as well. Whereas we fit kind of right in the middle of that. And we're consider ourselves a large regional player. We're not nationwide right now. We're just obviously in 2 states. But our motto is we're big enough to handle a very large account, but we're still small enough to care and be able to respond to our clients, respond to our officers, and have that engagement that is missing, quite frankly, from some of the larger competitors.
Mm. So, so the security industry has about, in the U.S., there's close to 8,000 security companies, and 7,800 of those security companies have a revenue less than $5 million, and they are in that bucket that JJ just talked about, and they've been there for a long time. If you really do a deep dive into those companies, they have a structure where you kind of, if they get a larger account, they don't really have the manpower to staff it and manage it. So then they might bump up to 7 million for a while, and then they will drop down again. So the majority of all the companies in the US has less than $5 million in revenue. Then you have 3 or 4, top of my head now, actually, I think it's 3 or 4 that are in the $1 billion class. Maybe there's a 5th one as well. But then, 3 or 4 up there in the $1 billion multinational, they're in international companies. And exactly, so then what JJ say, those are 2 buckets that you can pick from. Then there is about 15 to 25 companies, say 20 to 25 companies that are about the same size as we are, and they're spread out throughout the US. So when you look at a region like California, Phoenix, Arizona area, Nevada, we're also licensed there. Don't have any operation there yet, but there are not that many options for the clients to pick from that are sizable enough to actually handle your business. The one thing I think has helped us quite a bit in our approach to security is that I didn't come from security in the first place. So I think I've taken a completely different approach to security than a lot of other security companies have, meaning that we have done things in a way that is unique. And I think uniqueness is what can actually set you apart. If you're doing exactly what everybody else is doing, it's going to be really hard to distinguish yourself and create a competitive advantage. And so leadership, you can never underestimate the leadership in a company like ours, and it's like on all levels. And if we don't speak the same language, then we will not be able to execute on our vision and mission. And I give kudos to everybody in management and leadership that we are working really on the same platform with the same goals, and we speak the same language. So, I mean, we're a very mission-driven organization, and everybody understands the mission, which I think is very important. So that's really part of what our success is based on.
So many nuggets that you've shared leads me to additional questions. So I'm trying to decide where to go next. I want to come back to leadership principles here in a moment and how that relates to the security industry. Before I do that, though, let's talk a little bit about how you build and motivate your workforce. Like, how do you, with such ambitious goals here for Arizona specifically, how do you keep folks motivated and staying on board with you?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think your culture is going to do that. If you have a culture that's fast paced, exciting, of the times, you're going to get a lot of buy-in from people. But the main thing is to stay engaged with your employees. And having worked at some of the other companies, larger companies, you get hired on one day, and the next day you're on a site working by yourself, and you've had no training, no engagement. You're trying to get a raincoat because it's raining, and it takes 3 months to get a hold of your operations manager to get one. I've experienced those things. For us, that's a no-go. That cannot happen. If an officer needs a raincoat, it needs to happen that day. And we have the management and the responsibility to make that happen for them, and then they do that. So that's a really important aspect. And just again, staying engaged, giving them incentives. We have Employee of the Month awards and things like that. We want to recognize our officers. The last 2 years, we've had officers be recognized and be given the Medal of Valor for certain life-saving techniques and things like that through CalSAGA. And there was only a couple of security companies that nominated people.
Oh, that's
It was
cool.
us and another company. And it's like, why are more people not doing that, not recognizing their officers? They get paid to go down to Palm Springs and be awarded in front of people and be recognized for the work that they do. So I think that if you're a company that is engaged like that and you truly, show them that you value them, and if they want to make this a career, you're behind them, then, you're in a good place.
And what a unique role for that security officer, because you're employed by ProGuard Security.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you're on site with a different company. So I would imagine you could feel like you work in a silo if you're not welcomed and really acknowledged and appreciated by really both teams.
Right. It's very true what you're saying, and that is an ongoing concern if you don't engage with your employees. I mean, nobody wants to work for somebody who's never present or doesn't give you any support. My role is to support my team. My role is not to have my team support me, and I am adamant about that. You have to give support. You're not there just to dictate. You're there to support your people. So you're a resource for your people. And if you miss that mark, then it's going to be hard to motivate those people. Of course, I expect my managers and leaders to provide me with information as well, but it's kind of part of their jobs. But I am primarily there to be the support for them to be able to do their jobs. Leadership and so on, and provide them with vision and guidance and training if so needed. And I really want that to trickle down all the way to the security officer level. Yes, the security officer have their assignments, but we are there. Our managers, our field supervisors, our branch managers, account managers, they're all there to support the security officer. Because at the end of the day, the security officer is the one who is really delivering the service as a joint effort, clearly, but he or she is on site with the client. And so he or she is the face to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Hugely important.
Industry-wide, does it tend to have a high turnover rate yeah?
Yes, it's known that, some other companies have, several, anywhere from 100 to 300, 400% turnover in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
That means for every one officer, one position, you're turning it over for, 4 times, 3-4 times. We have a pretty low turnover rate. It's one of the things that we kind of pat ourselves on the back on, and we're able to put those things in our proposals for security and really stand behind it. We're in the, sub 30% in terms of turnover. So
fantastic.
It is pretty good. And it's been like that for, the entire time I've been here, which is almost 6 years now.
Especially when you talk about competitive rate of pay and comfortable working conditions, feeling part of the team, both the team that you're on and the site that they're at. I think that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about client relationships. You've talked around it a little bit. Let me make sure that I haven't missed anything. Is there anything else that you do consciously and consistently to make sure that you offer the highest level of service with these clients? I mean, really, you have to be in you spoke about how often you stay in touch with them. What else is in place? What do you hear a client say to you and you think, yes, this is why we do what we do?
Right. So good question. Let me peel back a little bit on that question first before I go into really answering that question. First of all, from a client's perspective, it's very important that you understand who you're getting in bed with doing business with. Unfortunately, the industry isn't always clean, meaning that there are companies out there that are maybe not even licensed. There are companies out there that are not following good business practices. So it's very important from your client's perspective that you pick a reputable company that's been around for a while. Of course, a lot of clients look at the bottom line. What's the cost? What's the security going to cost me? Because security is a expensive line item usually. And I understand the client wants to save some money here and so on. But if you're not picking a company that's reputable and has been around and is known for providing a good service, you might end up paying for a service that's not really a service, and they might actually open you up for more liability than removing it. So that's a very important component. So when a client goes out there and are picking your security vendor, be very aware of the fact that there needs to be a reputable company behind it. So then the question goes into what you're talking about, and what do we do different? How do you become a reputable company? I mean, obviously, get licensed first. That's the first part. You really need to be licensed. But then you need to build a company that has a structure, that you can actually control. And that is one of the things that we do. And I'm more of an engineer. First I studied engineering. That's what my daddy wanted. But then I switched over to finance. And so I became more of a finance guy. But my background is an engineer. And so my mindset is very, it's more an engineering mindset, I guess, where you come up with solutions and you come up with processes and so on. So that has really been the focus for ProGuard, where we develop these processes, we implement them, and then we steer the company in that to deliver service in accordance with the process. The process is always designed to give the client the best service available, and then when we hit that, we hit the marks. It's like putting a roadmap in place, and then we can work on that roadmap, and we can tweak it. We get numbers back, and we say, okay, well, this was not 100%. How do we get it to 100%? So what do we do different? That is really kind of one of the core things that we do differently. We have these solid processes, and then we have follow-up measurements to measure how that process was followed, or how well it played out. So
yeah, I would add that, again, going back to transparency, I know I talked about it previously. We're of the mindset, I've always been of the mindset that when I'm talking to a new client, prospective new client, and they want to know what we're all about, I'll tell them flat out, I would rather turn you down right now than let you down 3 months from now. And that goes to everything that we do. And it includes even pricing. We're not going to be the cheapest company ever, because we understand that to have a solution that works, that satisfies everyone, it starts with the wage of the officer. That from there it starts. You're not going to be able to get good applicants. Recruit well if you don't have a competitive wage. So we often go and speak with people, and they go, well, in San Francisco, for example, they'll go, oh, I'm paying my officers $20 an hour, and I need to maybe have a cost savings because we have low tenancy here. That's probably not going to work for us, because we're going to want to bring those officers at $25 an hour, because that's the going rate right now in San Francisco for a security officer. So same thing, conversely, here in Phoenix, you got to be at like $21, $22 an hour right now. And if you go online, you'll see security companies hiring at $16, $17. That's just not doable. So again, being transparent and letting them know, if you want something good, you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay to play, but we will give you good results. And I think that's, speaks volumes on why our client retention has been so high. The time that I've been here, it's very high. We rarely lose clients. And conversely, we're probably not as big as we could be, because we have turned down some.
You're choosy.
We're choosy. Yeah, because we just know that at the end of the day, like Neil said, so what if we gained 5 million more in revenue if we're just going to lose it, in 6 months from now? What's the point of that? All it does is just tarnish our reputation, and it doesn't set a good standard for us. So that's one of the other.
And it's wearing people out. And who wants to be on the losing team? Morale is hugely important for a business. If you have a rah win kind of attitude, then it will lead to win. I'm a firm believer that if you picture it, it's going to happen. If you mentally prepare yourself for something going to happen, positive or negative, you can make your mind bend the corner, or make the mind bend the spoon. You can, not physically, but
Oh, pretty close.
Yeah. So mentality and attitude is hugely important. And even just when you're recruiting somebody or sitting having a conversation, if you're going to be a positive and giving out positive attitudes and positive personality, then that person that you're interviewing is more likely to join your team than if you're giving off some negative vibes. So
what other leadership principles do you believe are important in the security industry?
Ask him.
Yeah.
My biggest thing always has been, you can talk words, you can talk about ethics, integrity, accountability, things like that. But for me, it's always been, you lead from the front. I've always found that if you're going to expect something from someone, you're going to train a security officer to do a job, you need to show them how to do the job if they don't know. And you need to ensure that they have grasped what you have taught them. And you do that by testing them to ensure that they have grasped the thing. So for me, I'm never the type of person that likes to say, hey, do this. If you have some issues, come to me, but just get it done. I would rather, be proactive, be democratic, and show them, what I expect, how I expect it to be done, and be there for them to support them during that entire process.
We've scratched around the topic around you being in 2 states right now, California and Arizona. What is the growth plan first here in Arizona, say over the next 6 months to a year? And then I'd love to hear really what is the plan, if you know it, which I know, Niels, you do. What is it beyond Arizona after that?
Next 6 months, we have. I think we're in a very good spot right now where we put the groundwork for a very nice 6 to 12 months kind of growth trajectory in the Phoenix area. We have some really solid clients that we started working with, and we're going to continue expanding on those relationships. Some of them are in the HOA area, some of them are commercial, and we're building out the market that in the same way as we built out the market when we established ourselves in the previous market, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. So there's no real difference how we're doing it. So we have done it, and we're going to continue doing it in the same way. As JJ said, we're selective as it comes down to picking clients, but we're selected to the point where we know that we can that it's a fit between our service offering and their service interest. I always, if a client is interested in service in the security service, if they know that they need security services, then that's a good client. If they feel that it's a must, but it's not really a priority for them, then that's not going to be a good client for us, because they are just. Most of those clients are going to be looking primarily on the bottom line, or the cost structure. Beyond Phoenix, the LA office is also coming around and growing at this point, and that's in the same state. The next state is kind of up in the air. It's between. We are, as I mentioned before, it's Nevada, but Washington is a growing market as well. Seattle is a very interesting market in our opinion. Primarily, we're looking at the tier 1 markets, and we're going to continue focus on those markets.
I know I had another question that just flew right out of my brain. With that in mind, how silly that I didn't think of this. This is a B2B radio, right? And podcast production studio.
Yes.
So we have the opportunity to work with a lot of businesses here, specifically in Arizona, since most of our conversations are in person. With that in mind, who are great introductions for you? Who are you looking to connect with so that you can continue to grow and keep Arizona businesses and communities safe?
The target audience and our demographic of who we do business with, commercial real estate professionals, facilities managers, engineers of maybe, standalone companies, procurement officers. We do a lot of networking to get there. For example, we're a member of numerous BOMA associations, and BOMA stands for Building Owners and Managers Association. So it's really kind of summarizes the commercial real estate and all the vendors that are in that market. We actually had an event yesterday for Phoenix BOMA. It was a very good turnout. We're also members of the Arizona Association of Commercial Managers, which is all basically residential. And we're also in California doing that as well with the California Association of Commercial Managers. So we're getting into the right, vertical markets, if you will, and the key stakeholders in those markets that can make decisions in terms of, getting security services from us. And on top of that, we kind of go outside of the box a little bit. And I want to give a shout out to Sandra Sabatini, our business development manager here in Arizona. But, she has forged some relationships with some companies that you wouldn't normally expect. For example, we're a part of the Arizona Self-Storage Association. So with that, we get, access to talk to 500 self-storage owners in terms of, what kind of security do you need? Do you want us to do patrols for you or monitor your cameras and things like that? So you have to think outside of the box and target that demographic of what you want your ultimately your clients to be.
Right. Yeah. property managers, facility managers. There's a long list of, within the HOA or in the commercial, there's a long list of different clients we want to connect with. Um, the way we do it is primarily to really so getting your security contract or becoming your security vendor, I should say, is a matter of trust. You need to develop a relationship where your clients have a comfort level with you, where they trust you, because they are giving you the keys to the kingdom. I mean, you're there to provide a service to protect their assets, whatever that asset might be. So one of the ways we really, and JJ touched upon this, one of the ways we establish this relationship is really by being involved in the community, being involved in these organizations. It might be I can't remember all the different acronyms that are out there, but there are different industry organizations that bring property managers together, either if it's in the commercial space or if it's in the residential space, and all kinds of different industry associations that work with our core clients we're interested in supporting. And we come in, we become members, we become sponsors, and we really get to know the people behind these different companies, and they primarily get to know us as well. It's a process. It takes time. It's not something you do over one cup of coffee or one booth event. It's an investment that you're making, and you're making that over time. And we are making that investment right now.
I've heard consistently both of you talk about relationships. This is about building relationships. And when relationships are built on trust, that doesn't necessarily happen right in the first conversation. It has to be built over time. And the fact that you're getting involved in the community through sponsorships and being involved in these associations and organizations and saying, hey, we believe in your mission and purpose, and bringing these professionals together, I would imagine that then people in turn obviously want to get to know you better and find out how they can utilize your services and sing your praises elsewhere. So that's fantastic. What can we expect maybe the next 5 years with security overall? Like, do you see the landscape of security changing? And if so, what do you anticipate we're going to be experiencing?
It is changing, as everything else is changing. I don't think that necessarily anything is static. I think that the world around us is always evolving to some extent. There are different technologies out there. There are some companies that are providing robotic services, and they are in some way replacing or trying to replace security officers. It's still early in the game where you actually can replace a physical person. There are so many aspects that goes into what our security officers are doing on a day-to-day basis. I mean, everything from sitting in front of a desk or sitting behind a desk and greeting people, checking them in, and so on. Sure, there are elements that you can remove. You can have a kiosk, you can check in, you can get access to a building, and so on. And is it coming? Yes, it's coming, but you still have an element of a human touch. So is the industry going to continue growing? In my opinion, yes. Right now, the technologies that are being developed and being implemented, and we do that as well, is more of an support function or augmenting your services. You're adding a layer of security. You're not necessarily removing a cost. Sometimes you can do that, like with our remote monitoring, but it means that you will have to remove the person that was on the site. Let's say that we're doing a 168, that's a lingo for 24/7 services, 24/7 security services throughout the day. Okay, so now you have a decision. You can say, well, we don't really need the night guy. Okay, so you can remove them 56 hours. Sunday to Saturday, you remove 8 hours of work. That's 56 hours. Now you're going to take that cost of, say, billing that out at $30 an hour, $35 an hour, and you can take that remotely. But then you don't have a person there. So there's trade-offs. Yes, you're saving money, but you don't have a person there. So that's a business decision. And some people are making that decision. Yes, we need to save that money. We don't need that level of service. So that kind of what we touched upon before, that we want to work with our clients to help them be successful and have the right security solution for them here today and in the future. But yeah, there will be changes.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely, to me, in my opinion, the biggest thing, just integration of, physical security, cybersecurity, surveillance, and video security. And I think that, if you augment all those, you do get a good security solution. Like Neil stated, if you implement remote monitoring, as a client, you're going to go from paying $30 an hour for a person to stand there or do patrols, to pay maybe $8 an hour to have all your cameras monitored. So it's a cost savings for them.
Actually, it's $9 an hour. $9 an hour.
That's right. It's not. So it's a cost savings for them. And, for us, sure, we lose some revenue, but maybe the profit margins are a little better for the company, right? So that it makes up for that. But at the same time, I think the most important thing is we're partnering with our client to meet their needs and give them something that's more cost effective, but still a very good solution that works for us and them.
We so recently, about a month or so ago, we had a security event up in Walnut Creek and outside of San Francisco, or in the Bay Area. So we brought together, it was us and there was 3 other companies. We did a smaller security seminar conference, and it was really focused on the ecosystem for security. How does all the different companies kind of tie in between each other? And it was everything from insurance to physical security, and we have some technology companies in between. And it's it was a great event, very appreciated, and the risk were addressed by the insurance companies or the insurance company, and they were talking about buildings that don't have any tenants and the risk about that, and all the way up to how the how liability is spread between how the different companies actually are facing increased liability even though they have less of a revenue and so on. So that was a very interesting conversation to be had with all these different players within the industry. Some were technology providers, and how they all tie together. So I think that continue building on that system that we have, the ecosystem for security, is a great way into the future, and how we can, not just the physical side or the security officer side, but how we can work together with the rest of the security providers in the industry to really build a cohesive and security solution that covers all your aspects of your assets. So
I want to go back to something that I thought of as you're both chatting. My other office is near the airport, Sky Harbor Airport, and it's a 10-story building. I own my own business, so I rent a space. So I'm one of many businesses in this large office. And I've never thought about it until today, that when we enter the business, the double doors before the elevators, there's a security desk there. And there's one security guard, probably out of 7, that I can kind of think in my mind that knows me by name, opens the door for me. Sometimes I've had to park in visitor parking because I forgot my key fob or those things. He's always accommodating. And I don't even know who the security company is. I know it's not you guys. I know that much. There's something to be said for that personal touch, that high touch, and his companions, his teammates. And oftentimes there's 2 of them sitting there, maybe at shift change or whatever. He's one consistent person who I feel, as a female business owner, oftentimes leaving late at night, getting there early in the morning, I feel safe when he's there. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I'm sharing that out loud, other than you had me thinking about it when we're really talking about the human component of safety and security.
I would argue with you that gentleman or lady that does that is probably being compensated well, probably been there for a while, is taking ownership of the asset of the property, has a very good attitude, just is a doer, likes to do for others and be of service, and probably feels valued by his company and perhaps the client, who's the property manager of the building, and just really loves his or her job. And that's why they do it to the best of their ability. So what we want is 7 of those people, right? And the way you do that is, again, all the things that I just mentioned. You make them feel like they're part of an organization, that they're valued, and that they're being looked after as a human being. And really, we want them to do well.
And real quick, before you do, Niels, for me, it's the same security company, right? So I notice as a business owner when I walk in there, I'm excited when I see them. It's a small thing. I've never literally thought about it before in this conversation. I feel great when I see him. I feel safe. I feel welcomed. I feel like we're partners in that building together. Mm-hmm. And he's on a team of several other people, because oftentimes there are other people there. So while I totally agree and appreciate what you're saying about this individual, clearly, and I agree, I think he's been there a long time. There's something to be said about helping your team know, and clearly this is what I hear you guys do, helping them look at their roles from our perspective, from our lens, right? So that it feels consistent, that if it is ProGuard, in this example, it's not, but if it is ProGuard Security Services, that I can count on as a business owner, the same level of service, with every single person that's there.
Yeah. So we're not here to argue, me and JJ, but I'm not going to agree with one thing he said. I don't think that person is compensated differently than the other. I think that person just have a different attitude. And that is really what we try to either find or develop, because there's those two things. And then he might be getting more, but I don't think that is why he's acting the way he's acting. I just think that is you can instill a value in people, saying all the other things that JJ said. I completely agree with it, but you have to instill a value. You have to tell the person that, you know what, this what you're doing is very, very important. It's appreciated. It's if you're not sharing the good feedback with your officers, how you expect them to actually do that? This person is probably just he's a person who has a positive attitude to start with.
And to JJ's point, you want all of those on your team. Of
course. And you can get people positive. I do believe that everybody wants to be positive and wants to have a positive outlook. I don't think necessarily people want to go around and be grumpy and I do think that if you explain it in a way that they understand it, they will try to do the best they can. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before, but my dad told me when I was younger, well, you have two choices. You can do it sloppy, or you can do it with a smile on your face. And if you do it sloppy, you're not going to feel better about it. If you do it with a smile on your face, you're going to feel good about it. You really are. So it comes back to attitude again, as I said before. And we want to share a positive attitude with our employees to make sure that they are feeling the same thing.
And I think that, again, speaking about turnover, we have low turnover, but the industry is riddled with high turnover. And you mentioned that, he's probably been there for a long time. So, years and years of that person learning, the different business owners, knowing them by their name, that comes with time. So if you're a company that operates off of, okay, this person didn't work out, let's just throw another person there, you're not going to get that. No. Because, unless the person is really exceptional, it takes time for that. So retention is very important.
Agreed. We are almost at the top of the hour. Is there anything that I hadn't thought to ask, or something that you want to expand on before we close, that you really want our listeners and viewers to know about ProGuard Security Services?
When is our next upcoming event that we're sponsoring, JJ, here in Phoenix? You can come and visit us at the next event.
Yes, I cannot recall off the top of my head, but
okay. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Many events. Obviously, follow us on LinkedIn, ProGuard Security Services. You will see all of our marketing posts and how we appreciate our employees and our clients and the various things that we do. We also have a Facebook page. ProGuardSecurityServices.com is our website. Very interactive. You can go in there and see kind of what we're about. Book a consultation.
I was just going to ask, what is the first step if somebody's listening and watching today and they're like, okay, yeah, we're ready to make a change, or, we're just starting off. It's just a consultation. That's where you start?
Easiest way would be to go to our website and fill out the form that says basically, I'm interested in security services, and then somebody will get back to you ASAP.
Great.
Because we don't let those things linger. And you'll speak with a security professional who can, talk about what ProGuard is, who ProGuard is, and get those talks underway so that we can potentially partner with them.
Or just call JJ
just call me directly,
right
yeah.
away. What's your phone number, JJ?
Yeah.
Yes, give us that cell number. No.
Yeah.
I am the fortunate recipient of a challenge coin that JJ gave me when you walked in here today, which is great because we've gotten to know each other, all three of us, over the course of a couple months. So thank you for this lovely gift. I mentioned when you handed it to me that out of the 7 years and probably 2,000 podcasts that we've had come through the studio, I only have 5 challenge coins, not this one, but similar. So thank you for the very thoughtful gift. Tell us a little bit about the challenge coin if you can, and who is it typically for besides, great radio hosts and studio owners?
Right.
Or is it just for us?
The challenge coin, I was introduced at first when I was in the United States Marine Corps and then in law enforcement as well. And I've seen it in security as well. I'm not, professional on how it came about, but in doing some research on it, it dates back to the Roman times. But it's really started in, I think, around World War I, and it's a military thing, really. It shows your allegiance to your group. If you're a part of a certain, artillery company or something like that, then that it would show your allegiance to them. It does make a good present to give, other people. And the most notable thing that people will tell you is that if you're in possession of a challenge coin and say you're having, some sort of an industry mixer, happy hour or something like that, if you come up and you're amongst colleagues and you slam down your challenge coin, the other people better put theirs down as well. Yeah, and whoever's last to put it down has to buy a round, has to buy the first round, or whomever doesn't even have one, then they're responsible for buying a round. So that's the old
That's
adage.
the main thing that I need this for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. The first 2 challenge coins that I received were from the ESGR, the Employee Service Guard and Reserve Employment Advocates on behalf of our service members who have to leave their employment, right, and go on reserve. And I was able to produce their show for, I think, almost 3 years. And they awarded me with a 7 Seals Award, which is just outside the studio, and a couple of challenge coins. I had forgotten that it really was based in that beautiful military culture.
Right.
So thank you for that remembrance and for the gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one more time, we can follow ProGuard Security Services on LinkedIn, and the website again, please.
ProGuardSecurityServices.com.
All right. Well, thank you again for spending your afternoon with me. It's a pleasure to get to know both of you even better today, and look forward to our next conversation. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio X, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneur Center. Some media lean left, some lean right, and we lean security. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.